Abu Qatada is, of course, the perfect pantomime villain for the Daily Mail.
He's not a pantomime, he's a real villain.
Well, I mean, the only person who sort of surpasses him is Abu Hamza, of course, had a hook for a hand and a glass eye. But I was slightly worried about calling him Abracadabra, but I'm sure the Daily Mail would like that because he might disappear. But I think that, if I can just quote someone, nothing can be more abhorrent to democracy than to imprison a person or keep him in prison because he is unpopular. This is really the test of civilization. Winston Churchill said that.
Winston Churchill would not have approved of this.
Wait a second. You can't send someone back to a country which has a track record in torturing people or whose evidence is based on evidence gathered from torturing people. What you do with that is you create an industry for torture. You create a system whereby governments think, well, OK, we can carry on torturing people because there's a system where we can convict people based on evidence gained from torture. And the reverse is true. If you stop sending people back to these countries where they've gathered evidence based on torture, you stop that torture taking place.
What do you do with him?
You put him on trial in this country, or the worst thing possible is, how do we think that sending him back to Jordan is going to make us any safer? From a security point of view, to have him in this country being monitored is far better than sending him over there where he can hang out with his Al-Qaeda mates when he's got a huge grudge. Saying, with the Jordanian government saying, as long as you don't, and we know you torture other people, but as long as you promise not to torture this one, we'll let him go back. If he was kept in this country, it's far better for him to be ignored in public and monitored in private in this country is a more sensible...
OK, you've made that point. Let me go to the woman there in the polka dot.
For example, the kind that have been counted by my neighbour Steve.
Steve Coogan.
Well, there have been several inquiries into the press. There was an inquiry in 1960, I think it was called I can't remember what it's called. There was the Calcutt inquiry, in 1990. And there have been various inquiries into the standards of the press. And on each occasion, the press has said, we will put our house in order. On each occasion, they've singularly failed to do so. People like me who've raised our head above the parapet in this are not there of our own volition. We're there because we're perhaps more media savvy than some of the more hapless victims of this.
What was your complaint for people who've come in later?
My phone was hacked and I was tailed, and lots of private information was information that I got from the police because I got a court order, information that I was entitled to, but I had to go through the courts. I'm fortunate enough that I have enough money to sort of pursue the press on this. But the fact is, they had they had their opportunity to put the house in order, and they failed every time. They've said, if it was a child saying, I'm going to behave, and you said, I'm going to send you to bed, and if you misbehave one more time, they keep misbehaving, you don't send them to bed, you'd say it was a bad parent. Now, the press, I'm not against. The whole point of all these stories is it's about, is the story justified? Is the story in the public interest? And 99% of these stories are not in the public interest. If a story is in the public interest, I'm in favour of good journalism that investigates it in terms of the public interest. That's important. It should be protected. In fact, I even go so far as to say that if you were doing a story in the public interest that was exposing some great corruption in the company, you'd even be justified in hacking, if that story is in the public interest. But time and again, it's not. It's about who's sleeping with who. And this is used as a smokescreen by much of the press to justify what they're true interested in, which is satisfying their shareholders by selling newspapers.
Okay. Now, so heavier regulation for you is...
I think the press should not be. I think that they should be allowed to put their house in order, but I think you have to have a backup system of some sort of statutory regulation, which the BBC has
I'm going to come to Anne Leslie. And
PCC bought the line from News International that it was one rogue reporter bought it hook, line, and sink. They didn't question it at all. Parliament didn't question it. The Met Police didn't question it.
And that's why we're having an inquiry.
It was left to individuals and a few newspapers to pick away at this scab. And the few individuals who did take action managed to get the ball right. I think all the original litigants should have a monument built to them in the shape of a giant can opener, because they were the people who got this wrong.
Man up there, you said, yes.
It would be wrong and other pressures.
It's always a problem with conflicts like this, because when you do take action, as Anne said, you may think you've ended up with a situation which is worse than had you not intervened at all. And of course, that involves us all having a crystal ball and being able to see what would have happened had we not intervened. I think back to way back to Srebrenica and the massacre of the 10,000 Muslim men and boys, and Paddy Ashdown at the time saying we need to intervene, we need to do something, there's going to be something awful is going to happen. And we didn't. And then it did happen, and then we said, well, we ought to have done something. So when we do something like in Libya, then we end up with an incredibly imperfect situation. You don't know whether it would have been better to do nothing. So I think it's...
Steve, we intervened in Kosovo, and that worked out pretty well.
It did.
I went there, and I saw what happened when you get ethnic burning. It's a terrible sight. Paddy Ashton was there with me. We proposed that there ought to be a government intervention, and actually that government intervention, I think, went a very long way to save the Albanians.
It did indeed. It did indeed. Had it happened earlier, it did indeed. Had it happened earlier, it would have been better.
I'll take one last brief point from the man up there at the very... Steve Coogan, you're another football fan. What do you make of this?
You're wrong there, David. And
I thought Brighton and Hove was your...
Well, that's where I live. I'm from Manchester, so my Manchester United supporter.
You're a Seagull supporter.
Moving up.
No. But I have to say, and I'm very, very forceful about this, I have absolutely no view on this whatsoever.
Right.
Did reform of the health service.
Steve Coogan.
The health professions are very conservative.
Can we have one at a time?
Okay.
Steve Coogan, then Anne Leslie, and then I think we're going to have to stop.
The NHS, when it comes to the Tories doing any kind of reform with the NHS, despite the involvement of distinguished people like Baroness Williams next to me, I view it with great suspicion. I think they don't like the NHS because it's one of the few remaining legacies of people who believe in an egalitarian society.
All my damn life, and my family too.
I know.
Don't tell me I don't believe in it.
No, I didn't say it. Of course I know that. I know you do. I'm saying that it's the involvement of the Tories in it, not your good self. I'm saying that when Tories are involved in reforming the NHS, I don't trust them. It's like putting Harold Shipman in charge of your local surgery.
All right. Anne Leslie.